my name's Christina. I've hosted backstage interviews with some of the world's biggest rock artists at more than a dozen rock festivals. Over the years, I encountered only a handful of female musicians, and always wondered why these festivals have always been such a boys' club. In 2019, I was stoked to see the lineup for Download Festival. It featured some truly talented women. These included one of the world's most formidable front women right now, Lzzy Hale of HALESTORM, Code Orange shredder Reba Myers, Karina Utamo and Lauren Hamill of Melbourne's High Tension, Jelena of Outright, and Baltimore's War on Women. War on Women are a feminist hardcore band that speak truth to power. They explore what I've rarely seen shouted from stage at a rock show: abortion, violence, rape, rage for the kind of outdated feminism that excludes sex workers, trans women, and real conversations. The band also straight up shred.
Australians!
With shows at the Download Festival in Sydney and Melbourne and sideshows alongside Boston hardcore legends Converge, it made sense to follow War on Women on the road, speak to the bands alongside frontwoman Shawna Potter, and get a band's eye perspective about women in rock right now.
I feel that War on Women is a band that people can easily digest because they're so fucking good. So
it's rock and roll.
It is, and I like it.
Rock festivals are a great way to catch a moment with a rock musician in the wild, especially one that has earned the respect of the most iconic rock stars on the planet. Download headliner HALESTORM is a band fronted by Lzzy Hale, one of rock's most exciting performers. Her powerful voice bleeds raw soul. And the band she started with her brother 22 years ago has earned top 10 records, global headliner status, and a Rock Grammy Award. Backstage at Download Festival with Lzzy from HALESTORM and Shawna from War on Women. So what's it like here, absorbing our culture? How are you feeling? Yeah.
I think it's amazing. Dude, every time we come to Australia, I'm from the States, and whereas like everyone has their little genre that they love, but in Australia, rock absolutely lives, and like you can walk down the street and everybody's got a Slayer t-shirt on, and it's fantastic. So I'm just happy to be here, and obviously we were just talking about representing women on these stages, and it's awesome.
Yeah, we were talking about how welcoming Download has been and how many bands have women in it and how cool it is, how cool a vibe it is back here.
And honestly, we are in a time right now where girls need to rage, and it is more important than ever for us to be female musicians and represent on this stage.
It's really important to get women's voices out there.
We need more women on stage.
There's a massive following of women, especially in the punk metal genre.
It's about as equal as it can be.
So I don't understand why we're not putting more women on the bill. So this is why this fucking Download Festival is amazing for it.
It is fucking cool to see people in the audience wearing Slayer shirts, watching us and rocking out to our music. That's high praise.
I'm Dave Cavalier. I'm here with War on Women. My first show with them was a week ago at the Wind-Up Space in Baltimore. Maximum capacity about 200 or 300. And right now we're here in Sydney, Australia at the Download Festival. And I'm excited and we're ready to play. Excited to see Slayer and Judas Priest and Alice in Chains and Behemoth.
My connection to Judas Priest is Beavis and Butthead, you know, breaking the law. But I really love Judas Priest, and I think it's really fucking badass to like basically be a sneaky gay and talk about how awesome it is being gay to a bunch of straight men that have no idea that that's what you're talking about. That's kind of my favorite kind of activism. And I know he had to do that, but looking back, it's pretty badass that he went ahead and did it.
I feel like Sparkles and Battle Jackets have never been combined in a more Liberace heavy metal way than Rob Halford.
Absolutely. Well, Rob Halford is kind of the king of that, absolutely. And I honestly think that anything Rob Halford does, if he wants to just kind of mark it as this is now metal, I'm okay with that. Yeah, he gets to set that bar very high. And he's actually the reason why I have no problem being in Australia in all the heat and the sun in a leather jacket. So, yeah.
I was like walking backstage on their stage and I saw the freaking motorcycle that he was going to like drive out onto the stage in like an hour or two.
You need a motorcycle.
I have had 3 of them.
Have you ever driven one on stage though?
No, but you know, I know where he keeps it.
Tim Mcllrath of Rise Against has used his voice to speak on injustice, animal rights, and the dark days of late capitalism. After selling almost 2 million records, Tim is really conscious of the power of music to move minds.
I just want to thank you for bringing me on stage and letting me sing with you and putting War on Women in some small way in front of this much bigger crowd.
It wasn't so long ago that we were not this band, you know what I mean? Like we relied on the help of like the Fat Records family that brought us up, and people gave us a leg up. So I know that there are Rise Against fans who need to know about War on Women and would love it if they just knew about it, you know what I mean? Right. And you add a lot of color to our stage. I love the cartwheel.
What does feminism mean to you?
Feminism to me is like synonymous with like common sense, you know? Like I don't think of it as something radical, you know? And like I never did. I don't know, like everyone got into punk rock in their own way. Like I feel like when I got into high school out in the suburbs of Chicago, there was not a lot of like punk dudes, but for some reason there was this whole crew of riot girls, and I was just like this nerdy kid, and they all were all older than me, and they all adopted me. So instead of having some dude like shoving like Black Flag and Minor Threat, they were shoving like Bratmobile at me, you know what I mean? And like Heavenly and like all this stuff. And so my first introduction was like this crew of riot girls who were like, you're the new kid, here's the mixtape, you're gonna love this. And it was like, I did, I loved it.
Great.
Like
They raised you.
Team Dresch and all this stuff was
Fuck yeah, Team
it was
Dresch.
like
Team
blew my
Dresch.
mind, yeah. And so that was one of my first ins. Everything else came later, you know, Minor Threat, Black Flag, Jawbreaker, what else? It all came later. And
Same for me.
And so it was, right? And so it was something, feminism is, it's just not radical, it's common fucking sense.
I think feminism is a branch of the movement that is for equality for everyone, it's a human movement. Maybe the aliens would also agree.
It's a request for equality in every way.
The lifestyle of cooperative living, of people living together on the planet, like that's how we've survived this long.
We are all born here in the same way, and we should all have the same opportunities and And that makes sense, and it should make sense to everyone.
Yeah. Like if you say you're not a feminist, like it's kind of like admitting a lot of really weird shit about yourself, you know? Like we don't like openly white power racists don't walk around admitting that to anybody, you know what I mean?
Yes.
They wait till they think they know you and they're like, all right, I'll give you my secret. But like feminism is like, I don't know, it's sad that it's radical, but I also understand that we live in a world that is cyclical, and so the fights are never completely won. Yeah. There's always somebody waiting for you to turn your head so they can get a few more yards. They can get a few more, get across that battle line. Like it's never truly, the war is never truly over. You got to stay vigilant.
How long must we wait before these pillars of men crumble and fall?
Feminism has become a dirty word. Its meaning distorted, broken, stolen. The thing is, feminism at its core is a human rights movement that people have died for. Around the world, women are fighting for the right to be counted as equal humans, to go to school, to be independent, to make music. That's feminism. It can be hard to get, I get it. Sexism can be invisible from the outside, and sometimes the people who are hurting the most are not the loudest. Here's a few reasons feminists are passionate about fighting for quieter women around the world. According to the United Nations, 1/3 of women have experienced sexual violence. More than 1/3 of women murdered worldwide were killed by their intimate partner. The gender pay gap and less access to good jobs and education mean many women can't leave violent men without living in poverty. The richest country in the world is trying to take away the right of women to choose to make a lifetime commitment to a human, and the pro-birth movement does not care to support these mothers post-birth. I can't communicate the chronic terror of living with someone who is stronger and meaner who could beat you every day, but it is a reality for a lot of women. Just know the F word means something, and you acknowledging that really matters. One of the reasons War on Women are important is exploring this rage, our rage, on record and on stage. They're part of a long line of disruptors that includes Viv Albertine and the Slits in the 1970s and the Riot Girl bands of the 1990s. These women didn't just question what rock was meant to be and who was meant to make it. They did it their way. When our songs, in our voices and our riffs, join the chorus, we're stronger. Our voices together make us all louder. And nowhere else in music right now is the gaze as level as it is between do-it-yourself rock musician and fan. We need each other to survive, and feminism is no different. We can't do any of this alone.
I credit Converge just like I credit any other band that's ever taken us on tour for putting feminism in front of their fans, you know, right before your set. That's a big deal.
Converge is a band that redefined DIY music, dissonance, and visceral truth in art. The band emerged from the fertile Boston hardcore scene of the 90s, but over 20 years have carved out a space all their own. These 4 prolific musicians have created original music that heaves with heart-wrenching intensity, astonishing artwork, brought bands to life in the studio and on their label, and aggressively evolved with each record. This hefty contribution has earned the band a cult of fans as deeply rooted in the music as they are.
I think we've always just been about honesty. I think that's what people connect with us. It's like, I want, when I see a band, I want to see real people making real music with honest expression, and I want to know that person isn't lying to me.
That's a really important thing, especially now when sometimes it feels like everyone and everything is lying to us.
That's very true.
What's the most exciting thing about women picking up that torch and having a bigger, stronger voice? Because as a woman, it means a lot to me to hear someone who sounds like me say something that matters to me.
What's exciting about women having a louder voice? I mean, it's just different. It's just different viewpoints, different art, just something fucking different. I'm so fucking sick of how angry you are, dude. I'm so fucking sick of how fucking tough you think you are. I'm so fucking sick of all these stupid guitar riffs where everybody's just fucking jumping on each other's heads. It's great, have fun, but I want to hear something else. I get it. Yeah. Everybody's fucking angry about something. Maybe some other people have something to be a little more angry about. Let them talk.
Thank you.
It's nuts to see people on the other side of the world sing your lyrics back to you that you wrote in your little apartment in Baltimore.
What was that? What does that feel like?
It feels amazing, you know? And I think the only thing to do is to just give it right back to everyone. You know, it's like an exchange of that kind of love, and just keep it flowing. It's fucking awesome.
Especially when a crowd comes out and has such good energy, and like you want to give it back to them and make sure that, like, you know, everyone feels fulfilled and happy.
And to see people that you know, like they're queer or like gender nonconforming or they're women, or like our song "Say It" is resonating with them, or "Second Wave Goodbye," and it's just like, oh my God.
There's a lot of women on this bill, which is extremely unusual for a festival. And we're out here covering the War on Women tour. Did you see them before?
No, I haven't seen them before today, and they were fucking awesome. And I'm so glad that we're getting more women in the music industry, especially coming to play festivals.
What kind of scene do you sort of come out? Like, what's it like from the interior?
We're from Baltimore, and y'all are from Philly?
Yeah, Pennsylvania. So yeah, I grew up mostly in rural Pennsylvania, so it's like rednecks and Amish people. So like there's nothing to do, so obviously you do music. But we used to cross the border all the time to Maryland because these guys are crazy. So we're like, let's go hang out with the Maryland friends. So yeah, absolutely.
There's definitely bars everywhere. We stay out late. We come from kind of a DIY punk Baltimore scene, which there is a lot of. There's a lot of music, a lot of people doing it on their own, all different genres, and a lot of women and gender nonconforming folks in the scene, and so that's really fucking cool.
Karina Utamo growls for High Tension, one of Australia's most exciting, creative and savage bands.
It's exciting for me, like, coming to these festivals, because I get to see brown metal fans, and and it's not often that you know I get to see that in Australia, but here, because Slayer are playing, I love that breadth, you know.
Do you think there are enough brown people on stage?
Yeah, fucking Joey Belladonna and, you know, the biggest bands playing at this festival. Tom Merriel, like.
We can always do better, though. Okay, we can always do better, no matter how good you are.
It's not about affirmative action per se, but it is just, as I said before, like, there's so much value in diversity, and you know, if we want to raise, like, you know, empathy within, like, our audiences, the best way to do that is just to offer a different perspective and experience.
Well, first, I guess you have to teach young people that safe sex should be pleasurable, even for women, and what consent really means. Then, if you can admit that emergency contraception is as safe as Advil, you can sell it over the counter and give it to the people who need it. You're missing out on half the labor force, half the creative minds when you keep women pregnant their entire fucking lives. It's environmental, it's economical, and truly conservative to only ensure when women fucking want it.
The more extreme end of the rock spectrum is one of the most male-dominated scenes on the planet. The world of heavy metal production is no different. Lauded producer and musician Andy Sneap is responsible for producing hundreds of heavy metal records with some of the genre's most defining artists. These include Download Festival headliner Judas Priest and their acclaimed album Firepower. Standing in for Judas Priest guitar legend Glenn Tipton on this leg of their world tour, Sneap joined us to reflect on women in heavy music. Have you recorded with many female musicians over the...
Not really. No, I mean, obviously Angela, when she was doing Arch Enemy, was one of the sort of the pioneers of sort of that.
Yeah.
Doing that style of vocal for a female.
When Angela Gossow joined Arch Enemy, she earned her place as one of the most prominent vocalists in extreme metal. Since choosing her replacement, Alyssa White Glues, Angela now manages the band.
You really need to know what you want, and you just make it very clear what you want, because otherwise people try to walk all over you, you know, like, here comes sweetie pie, like, I'm not your fucking honey pie, you know, it's like, that's basically have to make, yeah, that's why I understand why Sharon Osbourne is as hard as she is. I think she's been fighting her way in a field where it's just guys around, and just like, you have to be twice as tough sometimes. And sometimes I really have to sit down and take a deep breath and like remember my more female traits, you know, because I'm a nice person, I think, but you easily become a really hard cookie. It's just like, because it happens to you. But I mean, nowadays I get a lot of respect. It's different when you start out, because you kind of have to fight for your place, but now I'm established, and I get more respect nowadays.
It's always been quite sort of male dominated, really. It always has kind of been that thing. You know, it's quite, whether it's the energy and sort of the testosterone, you know, of when you're growing up, it puts you, you know, the average male in that frame of mind to throw himself around the room playing heavy metal, you know.
That's how I started out. I just joined a very small band from the local scene, and I was a shout in there, but I didn't think that this was something special or something that I would continue doing when I was like hitting my 30s and people applauding me for that. I just make a bunch of noise, and I'm really, really angry, and that's how it's gonna sound like.
We had, you know, we had Rock Goddess and Girl School back in the day, and there's obviously the Runaways as well. Yeah. You know, in the when would that been? 70s, I guess, wasn't it? Late 70s, maybe.
Did that song with Motorhead? Yeah, Girl School.
Yeah. But they were always on the radar and always on the scene, you know. But there was never any sort of girl band that broke it really big, was there? You know?
Yeah, it's weird, hey?
No, it's probably really, you know, back then it's probably only Joan Jett that was...
Well, totally.
You know, so...
I guess that's the question for the ages. Women have made a huge and undeniable contribution to the story of rock and roll. As mentioned, the influential Riot Girl movement spread worldwide in the early 90s. The music, zines, and confronting ideas proved that women could have a voice and a place on the stage in a new way. Bands like Bikini Kill, Huggy Bear, and Bratmobile were key creators of Riot Girl culture.
We actually started because I did this Bikini Kill cover band with some friends, and Brooks Harlan, who plays guitar in War on Women, he came to our show and saw it, and he was like, we should do this like for real with original songs and not just a cover band. And that's how we started War on Women together.
Whilst their legacy will reverberate through women and women with guitars forever, the Riot Girl movement did not continue to grow at scale. By the mid-90s, the movement had splintered.
You like to think that the essence of hardcore is equal rights and, you know, everyone participating on the same level, but it's really not. And it's it kind of really sickening to me how fucking just sexist and overtly misogynistic the hardcore scene is. And you know, I'm partly responsible for that, growing up in the hardcore scene, and I mean, I was steeped in it, and it takes years to, you know, realize that and unlearn it and change it. And so, you know, it's interesting in our case in particular, because the era that we sort of came up in hardcore, there was really a push for social justice and equality, you know, like coming from like the Fugazis of the world and just the DIY scene. And there was really a big shift that happened in the early 90s when we all started becoming really active. There was a lot of involvement from women in the punk and hardcore scene then. But even still, being around that constantly and seeing things like the Riot Girl movement start, seeing, you know, Bikini Kill and all these bands all the time, you're still, even though you're like, yeah, I'm for that, you're still not aware of how your own actions, especially when you're, you know, young, you're not aware of how your actions affect other people.
That's so classic, like, because then if my friend in the scene says a dumb joke that's sexist and I actually get upset about it or tell you, then I'm a fucking crazy bitch. you know, and I'm overacting, and can't you just be cool? We just want to enjoy the music, and you're up against this whole scene that does not understand what you're going through. So I think we've come a long way in just acknowledging, like, look, we all have different like lived experiences that we need to be sensitive to and aware of, and the point is that everyone gets to have fun at the show. Like that's the goal we're striving towards, is everyone can come to the show and have a good time.
Except me.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can't
you're
have
a
fun.
fucking asshole.
The reality is there has rarely been a huge stadium-sized rock band comprised mainly or exclusively of women. Maybe this is because the loudest women refuse to modify their message for mass appeal. Maybe it is because that kind of success is the antithesis to the anti-capitalist roots of feminist punk rock. Maybe the sexist power structures still prevent women from claiming a seat at the table. And maybe this is because achieving that level of fame is rare for any band.
I feel like just over the last decade, pop music has been the sort of most dominating force for whatever reason in the music scene. And there's been a lot of women who are at the top of the charts as a result of that. But I think what someone like me or Hale feel is that there are very few women who are wanting to agitate, I guess, or
be rock musicians essentially.
And not just be sort of pretty entertainers, you know, who are saying the right things and doing the right things and wearing the right things. And you know, when I grew up, all the women I looked up to were sort of provocateurs, and they were in argument with what was going on in the mainstream. Someone like Patti Smith and Chrissie Hynde, like these great icons of rock music, they all wanted to be boys, or they wanted to hang with the boys. They didn't want to wear pretty frocks and be in all the fashion magazines and be called beautiful and sexy. They didn't give a shit. And I think, unfortunately, right now, all women seem to care about is how beautiful they are, and they're taking pictures of themselves constantly with their iPhones, and there's just a fatigue of narcissism.
I actually think that going a little wild during our set hopefully gives other women permission to dance with abandon. I don't want women to feel like they have to dance a certain way or always look pretty or hot or desirable, because those are not the only things that make us worthwhile. And so I hope that kind of by dancing without thinking about it and just letting go and going for it, that someone else in the audience has been given permission to do the same thing.
Whatever the future holds, bands like War on Women are breathing new life and fresh and provocative ideas into rock music. Beyond music, War on Women singer Shawna Potter is an activist and published author provoking the rock world to create safer spaces. War on Women guitarist Jen Vito is teaching the next generation of young female musicians.
I was always a bit of a dude, and so I wanted to model like Slash and people like that. That's how I got into playing guitar.
I did get to sing for a Van Halen cover band. We did a show at St. Vitus in New York, and had the last drummer for Dillinger Escape Plan playing drums, which is fucking crazy. I was really excited to get like my outfit together, do a little Diamond Dave impression, but I cannot do the split jump like he can at all. I can do like one leg. I can do the one leg up, but I can't do the split jump off the kick drum.
I think I like playing guitar. I like playing all the instruments, and I teach a girls' rock camp.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and where kids learn to do it in a week. So I think it's cool to, if you practice a lot, you'll be good at guitar. But it's not like, oh, you were born to play guitar and no one else could do it. Like, I mean, anyone could do it.
Yeah, it's like it's dedication, right? Like it's it's work ethic.
Yeah, we always say like, hey, good job, you worked hard. We don't say like, you're so awesome to little kids. We say, you worked hard, because that's what it's about.
Working hard is no guarantee of vast riches or some antiquated notion of rock stardom. However, the awesome power of the cult bands that matter the most and how hard their fans listen should never be underestimated.
How did you get into Converge, Shawna?
I mean, Converge are, to put it in Australian way, legend. So they're in the ether, you know what I mean?
I remember when their first big song came out, which was like, I don't know, I don't know, maybe 1996, 1997. Here's what it sounded like. Everybody went bananas for Converge.
Yeah. It's like another tour that have been fortunate enough to go on with like this sort of genre-defining band.
I think the kind of heightened environment that, like the heightened level of Converge's music, it is a very emotional band. Like you are like, not to that, you know what I mean? Like it's an emotion, like it's about like digging into people's like souls and guts and all that kind of stuff. So to kind of cut people open and then put a message in there, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm digging your take.
Yeah.
Keep going. We're like the Led Zeppelin of hardcore. Just bullshitting, by the way. We're the Converge of hardcore. So Converge sucks.
You normally let him do interviews?
What? Yeah.
You try to avoid it, this is why.
Yeah.
At rock festivals around the world, bands may sound different, but the reality for most bands is the same. The rock and roll dream might be dead, but what has grown in its place has much deeper roots in the ground. Talking about like the reality of touring on a festival, so what do you think is something that people don't know is the truth?
So,
Hard-hitting truth.
yeah, everyone at this festival probably assumes that every musician here only does this, is only a touring musician. This is their whole thing that they do. This is their livelihood. This is how they pay their bills, and it's just the furthest possible thing from the truth in most cases.
Slayer they don't probably have day jobs. Yeah. Judas Priest probably doesn't have day jobs. But most of the bands that like aren't headlining, though, I would say probably do have to have day jobs. It's really hard to just be a musician.
I guess I don't see us as a working band. Maybe that's the main difference, because I have other jobs in the background, and I think for a lot of
we have other jobs.
Yeah. For us, the purpose has always been to play music that we want to play without making a compromise. So not making music so we can sell records, and just playing with bands that we like and doing shows that we want to do. So we said no to a lot of stuff, which is good, and it just keeps things really nice.
I think that when working musicians talk about the realities of their life when it comes to touring and playing music, people kind of immediately jump to, well, then don't do it, you know? But it's this artistic pull that, like, you can't not do it.
Believe me, I tried. I took like 10 years off from being in bands. And yeah, and I tried all kinds of different things. But, you know, I bounced off every single one of them and came back to playing because it's, I don't know, that's where I'm at home.
Most of us just can't not play music and perform. It's really important to us and our mental health in a way. And so, but that doesn't mean that I have to sleep on dog food at someone's house.
What's the doggiest place you've slept at? Like,
We were on tour, we were going through New York, and our friend in Brooklyn, like, he was like, oh yeah, I'm staying at this place, come on. And we walk in, it's like this amazing like mansion, this like lavish place, and then we're like, this is dope, and he's like, yeah, we're not allowed to be up here though. We're going to the basement. And so we go to the basement, it's just this sweat box with a couch and a stone floor, and it's like 8 people in the band, and it's like, there you go, this is where you stay tonight. Yeah, and you know, we would not do things like that if we didn't love the pros outweigh the cons usually.
My goal has always been just go. 100% go until you've got nothing left to give. And if you can't do that, get off the fucking stage.
people might not know that this entire world is basically constructed by people who've made that decision, that are like, I don't care what it costs and what it takes. I want to play this music for these people. I think a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions that that's actually what is the undercurrent of all of this. That's why half of these bands even exist. It's why they, you know, screwed up their day jobs.
Maybe a little Arrested Development too. Like we don't want to do other jobs, or we can't do other jobs.
This world is not about how good you are, right? The world of commercial music is not, the best players aren't the ones that rise to the top. It's the people that work at it.
You create something, and you guys create something that resonates, you know, with people, and that goes far beyond like the actual craft.
Like the best part of the day is when you get to play a show in front of the music fans, the people who support stuff like this, and is, you know, the only way stuff like this could happen.
What do you think can inspire more women to join bands?
It's more metal. A lot more metal for chicks.
We need more promotion of it. We need more support behind women bands. Showing women that you can play and you can be metal, and you don't have to play metal, right? But if you want to rock out and get on stage, then you can do it.
I think in this day and age, like I've noticed a lot that people don't always listen to music like they should. There are certain messages inside of music that people kind of, the great example was when Stick to Your Guns released Goodnight Alt-Right, and all these people are like, what are you talking about? Like, you shouldn't be singing about these things, whereas you like sing about all the things you're supposed to be talking about: women's rights, trans rights, women's issues, all these things that need to be talked about in punk rock. But people seem to have almost forgotten that. Yeah. And I that's why I think War on Women is so incredible, because you do speak about the issues that need to be spoken about. Like, it's all right to talk about heartbreak, and that's something that a lot of people talk about, but these issues are important too, and that's why I think you're so important.
It just makes me happy that there's somebody, that there are somebodies, you know, there are many people making some fucking noise out there for, you know, my daughter to say, oh cool, that's an example for me to follow. That's something that I can do.